The sky was still dark. A soft gray light touched the east. I woke in the Hadza camp. The air was cool. I could smell the smoke from old fires. The Hadza people were waking too. Their sounds were quiet. They moved like shadows in the early light. I was here to see them hunt. I wanted to learn their ways. This was Tanzania. This was the land of the Hadza. They are hunters. They gather food from the wild. Today, they would hunt monkeys. I felt a thrill. I also felt a little nervous. It was a new day. The stars faded slowly. One by one, they disappeared. The sun was not yet up, but the world was waking. Birds began to sing their morning songs. Insects buzzed softly in the dry grass nearby. The Hadza hunters gathered. There were 3 of them. Their names were Kauda, Gudo, and Saya. They spoke in quiet clicks and soft words. Their language is ancient. It sounds like the earth itself. They did not rush. They moved with a calm purpose. I watched them. I tried to be still. I did not want to disturb their morning. They were preparing for a long walk, a long hunt. The air grew a little warmer. The gray light became brighter. I could see the shapes of the baobab trees. These trees are very big. They look like upside-down giants. The land around us was dry. It was the savanna. Grass and thorny bushes covered the ground. This land provides everything for the Hadza. It gives them food. It gives them shelter. It gives them water. They know this land. They know its secrets. They know how to live with it, not against it. I felt small in this big land, but I also felt safe with the Hadza. Soon the sun would rise. It would bring heat to the day. The hunters knew this. They were ready to leave before it got too hot. They carried very little. They did not need much. Their knowledge was their greatest tool. Their connection to this place was strong. I felt it in the way they stood. I felt it in the way they looked at the land. They were part of it, like the trees, like the animals. I picked up my small bag. I was ready to follow them. I hoped I could keep up. The adventure was about to begin. I took a deep breath of the cool morning air. The hunters checked their bows. These were not fancy bows. They were made from strong wood. They were simple but powerful. Kauda pulled his bowstring. He listened to the sound it made. He nodded. It was good. Gudo checked his arrows. The arrows were long and thin. They were made from straight sticks. Some arrowheads were made of metal. These were sharp. Some arrowheads were made of wood. These were blunt, for birds. For monkeys, they used poisoned arrows. The poison was carefully made from plants. It was a slow poison. It would not kill quickly, but would make the monkey weak. They did not have many tools. Each hunter had a knife. The knives were small. They were used for many things. Cutting meat, making tools. They also had small axes. These were for cutting wood, or for getting honey from trees. The hunters wore simple clothes, animal skins or pieces of cloth. They did not wear shoes. Their feet were tough. They could walk on thorns and hot ground. I wore my boots. I knew my feet were soft. I watched them prepare. Their movements were practiced. They had done this many times. This was their life, their work. Sia had a small pouch. It was made of animal skin. Inside, he had his fire-making sticks. He showed me how he could make fire. He rubbed 2 sticks together very fast. Smoke came, then a small flame. It was like magic, but it was skill. It was knowledge passed down. They carried everything they needed. They did not need shops. They did not need money in the bush. The land gave them what they needed. Their skills helped them get it. I saw the focus in their eyes. They were thinking about the hunt. They were thinking about the monkeys. The poison for the arrows was important. They handled it with great care. Kauda had a small pot of it. It was dark and thick. He used a thin stick to put it on the arrowheads. He did not put it on all the arrows, only the ones for the monkeys. He told me the poison came from the seed of a desert rose plant. It took time to prepare. It was strong. He said it would make the monkey fall from the tree. This was their way. It was an old way, a way that worked for them. For many, many years, they were ready. The sun was just beginning to show. We started walking. The sun was a red ball in the east. The air was still cool, but I knew it would get hot soon. The Hadza hunters moved quickly. They did not seem to get tired. Their feet made soft sounds on the dry earth. I tried to walk quietly too, but my boots made more noise. The land was flat in some places. In other places, it was rocky. There were many thorny bushes. The hunters walked around them, or sometimes right through them. Their skin was tough. My skin was not. I tried to be careful. The savanna was beautiful. Tall yellow grass waved in the morning breeze. Acacia trees stood like umbrellas. Their leaves were small. Their branches had long thorns. We saw some animals. Small deer, called dik-diks, ran away when they saw us. Birds flew from tree to tree. Their songs filled the air. The hunters saw everything. They pointed to tracks on the ground. They saw a snakeskin. They saw a place where a hyena had slept. I saw only grass and trees. They saw a story. The story of the animals. The story of the land. Gudo stopped. He pointed to a baobab tree. He said there might be honey there. Honey is very important to the Hadza. It is sweet. It gives them energy. He climbed the tree. He used small wooden pegs. He put them in cracks in the bark. He climbed like a monkey. He reached a hole high in the tree. He put his hand inside. He pulled out a piece of honeycomb. Bees buzzed around him. He did not seem to mind. He shared the honey with us. It was delicious. The best honey I have ever tasted. Sweet and wild. We walked for a long time, maybe 2 hours. The sun was higher now. It was getting hot. I was sweating. The hunters were not sweating much. They were used to the heat. They walked with a steady pace. Not too fast, not too slow. They were saving their energy for the hunt. I drank some water from my bottle. The hunters did not carry water. They knew where to find it, or they could go a long time without it. I was learning how different their lives were, how strong they were, how much they knew about this wild place. As we walked, the hunters searched. Their eyes moved constantly. They looked at the ground. They looked at the trees. They listened for sounds. They were looking for signs of monkeys. Monkeys live in groups. They sleep in trees. The Hadza call this a monkey camp. Kauda suddenly stopped. He bent down. He pointed to some small droppings on the ground. Kima, he whispered. Monkey. The droppings were fresh. This meant the monkeys were near. The hunters became even more alert. Their bodies tensed slightly. The hunt was getting closer. Sia looked up at the trees. He pointed to some branches. Some leaves were broken. Some small twigs were on the ground. He said the monkeys had been feeding there. They eat leaves and fruits. He could tell how long ago they were there. Maybe just a little while ago. The hunters spoke in low voices. They decided which way to go. They moved with more caution now. They did not want the monkeys to see them or hear them. Monkeys have very good eyesight. They are also very quick. Hunting them is not easy. It needs skill. It needs patience. We came to a place with big rocks and tall trees. The hunters said this was a good place for monkeys. They like to sleep in high places, safe from predators like leopards. The hunters moved from tree to tree. They used the bushes for cover. I tried to copy them. I tried to be quiet. It was hard. My clothes rustled, my feet crunched on dry leaves. The hunters made almost no sound. They were like ghosts in the bush. Their focus was intense. They were completely in the moment. All their senses were working. Gudo climbed a small rock. He looked out over the trees. He stayed very still for a long time. Then he slowly came down. He made a sign with his hand. He had seen them. The monkeys were in a group of tall trees ahead, not too far, maybe 100 meters. My heart started to beat faster. The real hunt was about to start. The hunters checked their bows and arrows again. They made sure everything was ready. There was no talking now. Only silence. Only the sounds of the wind and the insects. And the distant chatter of monkeys. The hunters began to move forward. Slowly, very slowly, one step at a time. They bent low to the ground. They used every tree, every bush, every shadow for cover. I followed behind Kauda, trying to step exactly where he stepped, and moving only when he moved. It was honestly like a dance, a silent, careful dance. The sun was high now and it was really hot. Sweat ran down my face, but I didn't think about the heat. I thought only about the monkeys and the hunters. I could hear the monkeys now making chattering sounds. They didn't know we were there. Kauda held up his hand and we stopped. He pointed and through the leaves I could see them. Vervet monkeys with gray fur, black faces, long tails. They were moving in the branches of a tall acacia tree. Some were playing, some were grooming each other. They looked relaxed, totally unaware of the danger. There were a lot of them, maybe 20 or 30. The hunters watched them for a few minutes, studying their movements, choosing their targets. They needed to get closer, close enough for a good shot with the bow and arrow. This was, honestly, the hardest part. The hunters spread out. Gudo went to the left. Sia went to the right. Kauda stayed in the middle. This was their plan, to approach from different sides, to confuse the monkeys if they ran. They moved like leopards, low and silent, their bodies blending with the dry grass and bushes. I stayed with Kauda. I held my breath, not wanting to make any sound. Even a small cough could scare the monkeys. The tension was so high, I could feel my own heart beating in my chest. It was a primal feeling, the feeling of the hunter and the feeling of the hunted. We were very close now, maybe 30 meters from the tree. The monkeys were still chattering. They hadn't seen us. Hadza slowly nocked an arrow, choosing one with poison. His movements were so fluid. He didn't look at his hands, he looked only at the monkeys. He picked one monkey, sitting on a branch. It was a good target. He slowly raised his bow and took aim. Gudo and Seiya were also in position, their bows ready. The moment was here, the quiet before the storm. The silence was just, well, heavy. Hadza released his arrow. It flew fast and straight. Thwack! The arrow hit the monkey. The monkey shrieked. It jumped. All the other monkeys started screaming. They scattered. They ran through the branches. They jumped from tree to tree. It was chaos. Gudo shot an arrow. Seiya shot an arrow. More shrieks. The air was filled with the sound of panicked monkeys and the thud of arrows hitting branches, or sometimes their mark. The hunters worked quickly. They knocked more arrows. They shot again. Their faces were calm, focused. One monkey fell from the tree. It hit the ground with a soft thud. It was the one Hadza had hit. It tried to run, but it was weak. The poison was working. Another monkey hit by Gudo was clinging to a branch. It was struggling. The hunters did not shout. They did not cheer. They were serious. This was not a game. This was how they got food. This was how they survived. They watched the monkeys closely. They wanted to see which ones were hit. They wanted to see where they went. It was important not to lose a wounded animal. The monkeys were now far away. They had moved to other trees, or they had run off into the bush. The noise died down. Only the sounds of the hunters moving remained, and the rustling of leaves. Hadza went to the monkey that had fallen. It was still alive, but it was very weak. He picked it up carefully. He was gentle. There was no cruelty in his actions. This was a life taken, but it was taken for a reason, to feed his family, to feed his community. He ended its suffering quickly with his knife. His face showed respect for the animal. Seiya pointed to another monkey. It was high in a tree. It was moving slowly. It looked sick. An arrow was sticking from its side. He said it would come down soon. They would wait. They did not want to chase it and scare it further into the thick bush. Patience was key. The hunt was not just about the shooting, it was also about the tracking and the waiting. The sun beat down. We stood in the shade of a tree. The excitement was over. Now it was time for the work of gathering what they had hunted. I felt a mix of emotions, sadness for the monkeys, but also respect for the hunter's skill. We waited. It was not a long wait. The second monkey grew weaker. It could not hold on to the branch. It fell to the ground. Seiya went to it. He did the same as Hadza. He ended its life quickly and respectfully. They had 2 monkeys. This was a good hunt. 2 monkeys would provide a good meal for several families. The hunters seemed pleased. They smiled a little. They talked quietly. They had worked together well. Each hunter knew his job. They trusted each other. This teamwork was essential for their success. Gudo climbed the tree where the first monkey had fallen. He looked for the arrow. He found it. He checked it carefully. The arrowhead was still good. He would clean it and use it again. Arrows are precious. They take time to make. The poison also takes time to prepare. Nothing is wasted in the Hadza world. Every part of the animal would be used. The meat for food, the skin for pouches or clothing. Even the bones might be used for tools or ornaments. This was a deep respect for nature, a respect born from dependence. The hunters tied the monkeys' feet together. They slung them over their shoulders. They were not very big monkeys, but they would be heavy to carry back to camp. The hunters did not complain. They were strong. They started the walk back. The sun was at its highest point. It was very hot now. The walk back seemed longer. I was tired. My water was almost gone. But seeing the hunters, seeing their success, it gave me energy. I walked with them. We did not talk much. We just walked. The silence of the hot afternoon. As we walked, the hunters looked for other things. They saw some edible berries on a bush. They stopped to gather them. They put them in a small skin bag. They were always looking, always aware of their surroundings. The savannah was their supermarket, their pharmacy, their hardware store. They knew where to find everything they needed. This knowledge was incredible. It was passed down from generation to generation. It was a living knowledge, constantly used, constantly tested. I felt privileged to witness it, to walk with them, to learn from them. When we got back to the camp, people were happy. The children ran out to meet us. They were excited to see the monkeys. The women smiled. Food had come. The hunters shared the monkeys. This is the Hadza Way. Everything is shared. If one hunter is successful, everyone eats. There is no rich or poor in the same way as our world. There is only the community. Sharing is important. It keeps the group strong. It ensures everyone survives. This was a powerful lesson for me. The importance of community, the importance of generosity. The monkeys were not just food. They were part of Hadza culture, part of their stories, part of their connection to the land. Hunting monkeys is an ancient practice. It is a skill that defines them as hunters. It provides protein. It provides fat. These are important in their diet. They do not farm. They do not keep animals like cows or goats. They rely completely on hunting and gathering. So, a successful monkey hunt is a celebration. It means security. It means life continues. It means the Hadza Way continues. The monkeys would be cooked over an open fire. The smell of roasting meat would soon fill the air. The whole camp would gather. They would eat together. They would talk. They would laugh. The hunt brings people together. It reinforces their bonds. I saw the pride in the hunters' eyes. Not a boastful pride, but a quiet satisfaction. They had provided for their families. They had fulfilled their role. They had used their skills. Skills honed over thousands of years, living in this harsh but beautiful land. I understood then that hunting was not about sport for the Hadza. It was not about cruelty. It was about life. It was about respect for the animals they hunted. They took only what they needed. They used every part. They understood the balance of nature. They were a part of that balance, not separate from it. This perspective was very different from my own world, where food comes from a store, where nature is something to visit. For the Hadza, nature is home. It is everything. The monkey hunt showed me this very clearly. It was a profound experience. Spending the day with the Hadza hunters changed me. It changed how I see the world. It changed how I see human life. I saw people living with so little, yet they seemed content. They had strong families, strong communities. They had deep knowledge of their environment. They were skilled. They were resilient. They were free. They lived a life that humans have lived for most of history. A life connected to the earth. A life of hunting and gathering. It was a hard life in many ways, but it was also a rich life. I learned that happiness does not come from possessions. It comes from relationships. It comes from purpose. It comes from connection. The Hadza have these things. They live in the present moment. They do not worry too much about the future. They trust the land. They trust their skills. They trust each other. This was a powerful lesson. In my world, we worry so much. We plan so much. We accumulate so much. But are we happier? I'm not so sure anymore. The Hadza showed me another way to be human. A simpler way. A more ancient way. The skills of the Hadza hunters are amazing. Their ability to track, to move silently, to use their bows and arrows. These are not just physical skills, they are mental skills too. They require deep concentration, patience, understanding of animal behavior. This knowledge is disappearing from the world. As modern life spreads, these ancient ways are threatened. I felt sad thinking about this. The Hadza have so much to teach us. About sustainability, about community, about living in harmony with nature. We need to listen to them before it is too late. My view of the Hadza way of life is now one of deep respect and admiration. They are not primitive people. They are experts in their world. They have a rich culture, a deep spirituality. They are survivors. They have lived this way for thousands of years. While other civilizations have risen and fallen, the Hadza have endured. The monkey hunt was more than just an adventure. It was a window into a different world, a world that is still here, a world that has much to offer. I will never forget my day with the Hadza hunters. I carry their lessons with me.